Hey friends, Elizabeth here from Plant-Based Bride, back again with another video, and today I'm super excited to share with you my October plan with me in my bullet journal. This month I decided to go with a snake theme, and I had a lot of fun pulling all these spreads together, so hopefully you enjoy watching the process as well. Today's video is kindly sponsored by Skillshare. I'll talk about them more at the end of the video, but for now, let's hop right into the setup. So I'm starting by adding tea-stained paper to all of the spreads where I want it, and I'm using a couple sheets of tea-stained paper from my previous video where I showed the process I used to create this old vintage paper look. So check out the link in the card or in the description box if you want to see that video and see how easy it is to make tea-stained paper that you can use in your own bullet journal. And I'm using a combination of glue tape and glue sticks to get those down, and then just cutting away the excess so that I have a nice clean finish. As always, all of the supplies I'm using are linked in the description box, so check that out if you're looking for any specific supplies. I'm also working on cutting all of my tabs for my weeklies, as I've been doing for about a year now. I'm cutting my weekly pages 3 dots in from the edge, alternating between tabbed pages and just straight up pages. Those straight pages are going to end up being folded to be the center page in my Faux Dutch Door weeklies, and the tabbed pages are the pages that are left flat that allow me to quickly flip between different weeks and my monthly calendar. If you're new to my channel and this seems confusing to you, just hang on a little bit. When I get to setting up that first weekly, it should be a lot more clear. I'm also gluing down the tea-stained paper on this final spread here, which is going to be another quote page and just a final art piece. I already glued down the tea-stained circle on that last page just because I wanted to have it down so I could do my sketch. Flipping back all the way to that first spread, which is my first quote page and my cover page, and I'm starting with a Secura Micron fine liner to draw this flower here. So for this theme in general, it's a snake theme, but it has a bit of a whimsical, quirky, modern feeling to it. I didn't want to do anything too dark or creepy, and I didn't really want to do something too focused on realism this month. So I decided to do more of a poppy, modern style. And as I'm sure a lot of you know, I really like to keep themes to a pretty limited color palette just to keep everything feeling really cohesive. And for this one, I decided to focus on a lot of black with accents of gold and a nice bright coral pink. I also decided to use fine liners, my gold watercolor, and acrylographs to do all of the art so that everything would have a really flat, matte, opaque finish. I think that really adds to that poppy sort of modern aesthetic that I was going for here. And I liked the idea of combining that really poppy, bold, modern feel with something a little more dainty and realistic and gentle, which is where those botanical elements come in. Because I'm drawing them in a more realistic style and adding a lot of fine details, I feel like they add a nice background or contrast to the really simple, almost abstract, bold snakes. I'm using the gold acrylograph that came in my acrylograph set from my collaboration with Archer and Olive as a base for the moon here, and then once that's dry, I'm going in with my gold watercolor to make it extra super shiny. I'm also using my stamp set to add the quote, and the first quote I chose was, "May old stories end and retellings begin. Tonight I'm crawling out of my old skin." Mildly creepy, but also kind of hopeful. This accent color that I'm using is the Coral Acrylograph from the Archer and Olive Warm Fall collection. Just adding a simple border here and then moving over to the cover page. So here I wanted a background of many flowers and leaves behind the super bold snake lettering. And when I tell you that this was the longest part of the planning process for this theme, trying to figure out how to make a snake spell October in a way that was legible but also looked kind of like a snake and looked cool, took me many days. I think this is one of the longest planning processes I've had for a theme, mostly because of this cover page, because it just took me so darn long to figure out how to make this work. But I really like how it turned out, so hopefully that time was worth it. I've never done a snake theme specifically, and I thought it would be fun to do one for October since so many people have at least a mild fear of or discomfort around snakes. An intense fear or phobia of snakes is called ophidiophobia. I wouldn't say that I have this specific phobia, but I will say that I am certainly very cautious around snakes, as I think it is logical to be, especially if you come across one in the wild. And I do find them mildly creepy or scary in certain contexts, although I think a lot of that is just the result of how many stories include snakes as a villain or a source of fear, how many movies have creepy snakes, because I do feel like snakes I've seen in real life seem quite cute. So I was trying to make my snakes more on the cute and beautiful, elegant side, and less on the creepy, scary side. Rather than focusing on facts about real-life snakes in this video, I thought it might be more interesting to focus on the mythology or symbolism surrounding snakes in so many different cultures. In many cultures, snakes have been symbols of healing and transformation, and in others, snakes have been symbols of fertility. There has also been this connection between snakes and immortality, as some cultures have regarded snakes as immortal because they appeared to be reincarnated when they sloughed their skins, as though their old self had died and a new, refreshed version of themselves was moving forward in life. Snakes have also been observed biting their own tails to form an infinite circle, a symbol of eternity. The most recognized version of this image is the classical symbol of the Ouroboros. This symbol has many interpretations across cultures, but is often seen to represent the cyclical nature of life and death, life feeding on itself in the act of creation. Snakes have also been featured in many different creation myths around the world and throughout time. In one such myth with an origin in ancient India, the drought serpent Ahi or Vritra swallowed the primordial ocean and did not release all created beings until Indra split the serpent's stomach with a thunderbolt. In Chinese mythology, the woman-headed snake Nuwa made the first humans, one at a time, with clay. Greek cosmological myths tell of how Ophion, the snake, incubated the primordial egg from which all created things were born. Snakes have also often been associated with the underworld throughout a variety of cultures. For example, in Nordic myth, evil was symbolized by a serpentine dragon, Nidhogg, the dread biter, who coiled around one of the 3 roots of Yggdrasil, the tree of life, and tried to choke or gnaw the life from it. Snakes have also been associated with water, wisdom, as in the Adam and Eve story from the Bible, and healing. But why is this fear of snakes so universal? The anthropologist Lynn Isbell has argued that as primates, the serpent as a symbol of death has been built into our unconscious minds because of our evolutionary history. For millions of years, snakes were the only significant predators of primates and early humans, and that explains why this fear of snakes is one of the most common phobias worldwide, and why the symbol of the serpent is so prevalent in world mythology. The psychoanalyst Joseph Lewis Henderson and the ethnologist Maud Oakes have argued that the serpent is a symbol of initiation and rebirth precisely because it is also a symbol of death. Chewy was very interested in this theme and wanted very much to lie down on my bullet journal. I wasn't sure if the acrylographs were fully dry, so I couldn't let him do that, but I did give him many cuddles and scritches, as he deserves, because he's a very good, floofy boy. I added curved lines on top of all the coral bits to indicate the ribbed texture of the underbelly of the snake. Then I used my gold watercolor to add some gold highlights to these snakes. So for the two snakes on the quote page, I just added dots along the length for a very simple gold highlight. But for my main big snake on the cover page, I wanted the back of the snake to appear to be covered in stars, as if this was the mythical snake that created the universe and is itself made out of galaxies and stardust. Moving on to my next spread, which is going to be my calendar page on the left and a little habit tracker page on the right. And I'm starting here with a drawing of an adorable little snake curled up in a bottle with the moon and some stars, and the stars are starting to escape out the top. I don't really know what this is based on. I just had the idea of a really adorable looking little baby snake curled up in a jar, and it went from there. So that's what this is here. I've also always loved the image of a jar that is holding the moon or the stars. There's just something so magical and whimsical about that. Moving over to the other spread, which is going to have a couple habits on it, and I wanted to create a nice big snake in the center with sunbeams radiating from its head, almost like a crown. Maybe this is the grown-up version of our baby snake in a jar. If you know of any interesting myths that include snakes that I didn't mention in this video, I would love to hear about them in the comments down below. Also, if you have any recommendations for books or articles, really any media that explores snake mythology, I would love to read more about it. It's incredibly fascinating. I'm using these round habit trackers again, where I fill in this circle slowly each day that I do the habit and see if I can complete the circle by the end of the month or how far I can get. Essentially, I split the circle into however many pieces I'm hoping to do that thing. So if I want to do yoga 10 times in a month, then I'm going to split that circle into 10 even sections. And each time I do yoga, I can fill in a 10th of the circle so that I have a chance of completing it. Because the last time I did these circle habit trackers, I just split each circle into the number of days in the month. And then I felt kind of sad when some of my trackers, like taking a day off, didn't completely finish the circle, even though my plan was never to take every day off in that month. So I think this method is a little bit more rewarding. Moving on to working on my weeklies. So as always, I am doing my Faux Dutch Door Rolling Weekly. I'll link my video explaining how the Rolling Weekly works, why I use it, how to set it up in the cards and in the description box down below if you're unfamiliar. I'm also using my black acrylograph to make all of my tabs black. As you can see, you have half a page vertically for each day of the week to add day-specific tasks. You can write out a timeline of your day, to-do list, just notes throughout your day, whatever you want daily space for. And then the final half page is your weekly task list, where you can write out everything that has to be done in the week, but doesn't necessarily have to happen on a specific day. And you can track the days that you work on these various tasks. Moving to the final spread of this setup, which is going to be another quote page on the left and our final art piece on the right. For my second quote, I decided to use, "As I slowly unraveled each imperfection in front of you like a scar." I thought this evoked the feeling of a snake slowly shedding its skin, that idea of unraveling all of your imperfections, all of your pretenses around someone, revealing your scars to someone, just that ultimate vulnerability of allowing someone to see that fresh, new skin underneath that maybe already has some scars. Moving to this final art piece here, I really loved the image of a hand holding holding a snake. I just think it is so beautiful. I think hands can have so much expression in them. I think that comes from my experience as a dancer. Hands can be just so incredibly beautiful and expressive. And I think the image of a snake, which can also be so fluid and expressive, wrapped around a hand, is just a really beautiful image. And there's so many variations in how you can draw that, in how the snake can curve around the hand, in the position that the hand is in. So I thought this would be a beautiful final image, and incorporating some of those botanical floral elements as well. Again, I tried to make the snake look a little more on the cute side and less on the creepy side. And once the layers of acrylographs were dry, I went in with my gold watercolor to add a whole bunch of stars on the back of the snake. Now, before I show you the final flip through of this setup, I want to take a moment to talk to you about today's video sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare, as I'm sure you know, is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creators like you and me. Explore your passions, expand your skills, and get absolutely lost in creativity. There are Skillshare classes in almost every creative area imaginable: illustration, fine art, photography, graphic design. Wherever your creative interests lie, Skillshare has a class for you. Skillshare is curated specifically for learning, meaning there are no ads, helping to keep you focused. They're also constantly launching new premium classes, meaning you can follow your creative journey wherever it may take you. I just started taking this class by Emma Gannon, author and creative, called Finding Fulfillment: Using Pivots to Power Your Creative Career. I was really intrigued by this class because as someone who's always had a creative career, I am so deeply familiar with this concept of pivoting. No matter how many times I pivot, it is still a terrifying, anxiety-inducing process. And I'm really excited to absorb all of this information and reassurance that it's going to be okay from several other creatives who know how scary it can be to pivot your direction in your career. So if you are interested in this specific class or any of their thousands of other classes, I hope you'll check out Skillshare. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare, so you can start exploring your creativity today. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. And now let's look at this final flip through of all of my spreads for October. I'm really pleasantly surprised by how much I like this color scheme. I wasn't really sure if it was going to work. It was a little out of my comfort zone, but I really like the incorporation of the natural texture, that warm brown tea-stained paper, along with the graphic black and coral, and that shiny gold accent. As y'all know, gold accents forever. I will always love them. I also like that this theme has that tiny tinge of creepiness that snakes seem to always leave in their slithered wake. But the overall feeling is sort of that light, quirky, mythological vibe. And I'm into that. I hope you're into it too. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below with a theme you'd like to see me tackle or what theme you're doing for October. I want to take a moment to thank my patrons for their support. Extra special thanks to our newest patrons: Katerina, Nicole, Erica, Joanna, Morgan, Chell, Lydia, Sophie, Manda, and Joni. Welcome all of you to the squad. We are so excited to have you. If you at home want to join the squad and get some printables from this setup, then feel free. There's a link in the card and in the description box down below. And with that, I'm going to get going. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you really soon in my next one. Bye, friends.